me?
Yes,
Good
Renee.
evening.
What are you doing?
Life is scaring the daylights out of me, and I'm going to share with you how I deal with that.
Oh my goodness. Now, but let me get something straight because you're saying that you have a way specifically, like a method to
Yes,
deal with your fears.
yes,
And are
and
you,
I do this quite frequently.
oh, so that means you're scared a lot?
Well, aren't we all? This is the thing, aren't we all? If we would all be a
Yeah,
little honest about it, we're
that's
all
it.
facing something that puts us right up against the edge of our comfort zone,
I mean, I
one way
just
or
had that
another.
today, and I had to face my fear. And I said, wait a minute. Do I want to live like that, or am I just going to go ahead and do this thing? And yeah, I mean, it was just I had to plan my post that I was going to put out there, and I was holding back, and this little message was going on in my head. Well, you don't really want to do that, do you? And I said, well, wait a minute, I do want to do that. Is that
Right?
is that one example potentially of the
Yes.
kind of fear you're talking about?
You pick it, Michael, because we're all facing something that really terrifies us, whether it's social anxieties, whether it's going after big dreams of ours. You and I talk about that frequently, right? About big dreams.
Yep.
And so that's a common one for each of us. You pick it. I mean, we all have something, and they can often seem like they're nothing, right? To other people they are nothing, but to us there's something terrifying. Whatever, for whatever reason, we're up against it. All that matters is we know that we're up against it, we know where we want to go, and now I'm going to show you a way to do something about it, so that you
Right.
don't have to be stuck in that situation
That
permanently,
that's
because we don't go after what we want when we're in that terrified place,
mm, mm, mm.
right?
Sounds fantastic. So welcome everyone. This is people living by purpose instead, like crazy people, right?
Like
We're crazy
crazy
people. Yeah,
people.
we're crazy people. We live by purpose every single day, and
Yeah.
still, in spite of that, we have fears that we have to deal with. And Renee, take it over. We're going to go.
I'm going to. So I'm gonna share my screen with you, and we're gonna get started here. We're
Yeah.
gonna start talking about this. And so I have got to say thank you to all the lovely people that are in my friends list on Facebook. They all, I want to say, played along with me, but I'm assuming that there's a few people with a whole lot of trepidation tonight.
Hmm.
As I put out on Facebook that I'm going to go to Cartagena, Colombia for 2 weeks here on Monday. And I requested that people share with me what their fears are for me, what I should be concerned about, all the considerations that I should be taking into account to undertake this. And so, I think for almost everybody, me included, the first time you hear the word Colombia, which of course I've spelled wrong. I had a friend point out to me, it's
Yeah,
Colombia. The other one's in South
correct.
Carolina. Is the first word you think of is cartels, right? Drug
Mhm.
lords and cartels.
Mhm.
And Sunshine here is wanting to go to a week-long meditation retreat 2 weeks from now. And before that, I had the opportunity. I thought, hey, I would love to go down there and spend some time and experience the place. And I'm doing it by myself. I don't have anybody else to go with me. And so why not make this an event, and why not face some of my fears in going there? I mean, I could go to the conference in 2 weeks, this meditation retreat in 2 weeks. I could have gone right from I could have gotten a car from the airport to my Airbnb to the event, which is only a block or two away, and back to my Airbnb and get food at the event and never step foot in real Cartagena, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But what fun would that be, right? What memories do you come home with? What experiences do you have? What boundaries do you push? What comfort levels do you push when you do that? And so all the beautiful people in my life, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time and the thought and the care to gently share with me all the things you're afraid of. I still have one friend who I have to get back with on my phone who also wanted to share with me. But I had so many people come out and share their concerns with me. And that touches me because it means I matter to you. I mean something to you.
Yeah.
You worry for me and you care about me. And that touches me deeply. And so I don't want to stop there. I don't want to leave everybody, hanging on the edge, terribly worried for me. So I'm going to share with you the process I have used for quite a few years now, to go after some of the things that I want to do, but that also scare the daylights out of me. So don't think I was born with an extraordinary, extra chromosome gene, something like that, that it makes it possible for me to go out there and go after things that is not possible for somebody else to go after. And so I just want to share that with everyone. And so I'm going to actually get down to this, and I'm going to actually ask Michael to help me a little bit. So I did a little bit of the pre-prep work of what I usually do, before I share this all with everybody. But
Yes.
the first thing I always do is look at, what is my big, hairy, audacious goal? What is it that I'm wanting to create, accomplish, tackle in my life? And so it's always important to me. One of my values is to appreciate life, to appreciate how extraordinary it is, to make it juicy and extraordinary and an adventure. And actually, it is to actually also push my comfort, to actually go after things that make me a little more uncomfortable. It's just a value I have for myself, but really, don't we all have things that if we knew how to get around our own selves, we would go after? I realize some of these seem like death-defying things to people, but don't we all have things that feel like near death? Public speaking, people would rather die than public speak. I mean, it's like something they've done a study on, so we all have these things that feel like, really, really putting ourselves out on a limb. And so the first thing I do is look at my goal and get really in touch with, what is it that I want? What is it that will really make it something extraordinary, not me just sneaking through it? And for me, it's to go to Cartagena, Colombia, for the meditation retreat. That even by itself pushes me a fair amount, because I've never done anything like that. A lot of people, I've got social anxiety. It's 7 days and it's intense. I mean, I'm not even sure I can handle 7 days of a meditation retreat. So there's that part of it. But besides that, it's, that I'm in a foreign country, don't speak the language, I've never been there, I'm going by myself, all those kind of things. So I wrote down here, what freaks me out. I really want to experience the place. I'm going to be staying near Old Town. It's beautiful old architecture, gorgeous beaches. It's a place I've never been to before. I want to really deeply experience something about Colombia. I don't want to go from an airport to a hotel to a conference center and reverse that and leave. I don't want that. I want something extraordinary. I want to experience the country, its people, maybe its customs, its food, all those kind of beautiful things. Right.
So, and one of the things I think you're doing here is you're really going through a visualization process of what do you really want.
Yes.
You didn't just say, oh, I'm going to Colombia, and it's just this frivolous passing thought. Yeah, and you register, you hit the registration button, you make the arrangements, and you're going down. You have a lot more that you visualized.
Yes.
Establish a huge connection to a purpose that's bigger than just going for a retreat.
Yes. All you have to do is look up a few pictures of Cartagena, Colombia, and your mind is, like, just, if you don't have, if you look at those and you can't go, ooh, I can kind of see that. There's no imagination. It's beautiful. It's colorful. There's water. There's Old Town, New Town. Just incredible food. Just 3 minutes of a search will tell you this could be extraordinary, and it gets the juices flowing. It gets you thinking about what's possible. And so you kind of do this first blush sort of thing. I'm going because of the retreat. I was going to go to Orlando, and it was full. So it's like, ooh, where else is it? And it pops up, Cartagena, and that little tickly feeling happens. This is kind of scary, exciting, kind of thing. And it's like, if this Joe Dispenza guy will have an event there, well, maybe it's kind of cool, and so it gets the imagination running, right?
Amazing. That is amazing.
Right. So, in the first blush of what freaks me out, I've never flown to South American country by myself. I don't know anyone there. I mean, like, nobody. I don't have any backup. I don't speak the language. I don't know the customs. I have no idea how to get around. I have massive anxiety of various types, which I've shared with everybody before, so there's nothing new there. I know, as I giggle and laugh, it doesn't seem like it, but it's in fact a thing. And so this is your first step, is like, it's got to be compelling. Why would you go and push yourself up against your comfort zone if it's not compelling?
Well, so these are these the boogeyman thing?
No, we're not there yet. This
Not
was
even there
just,
yet. So
this
this is
is just the tentative, as you think on this, it's like, wow, because the next step we're going to get to is what is, I call it the boogeyman, the list of horrors, the things that are lurking in the back of your brain that your brain knows about. It's not stupid. It's read the news. It's heard the stories, right?
right.
They're always gruesome and grim. The news is never like, when we found puppies, it's
Mm.
always horrible, right?
Yeah.
And so, this is what we have. So we have these, this is my first blush at what I'm afraid of, right? Or I've got concerns, anxieties, whatever you want to call them, different levels of fears, right?
Right.
So then the next thing I do, so I did this, and I've sorted this out a little bit already to start out, because I didn't want to take a lot of time on this call to do that. I did a little first kind of pass at it. And so the instructions are, after you set that big, hairy, audacious goal for yourself, is to ask yourself the question, how would I fail to do this? How would I fail to go and have this incredible adventure in Cartagena, Colombia, go to this retreat and have it be something mind-blowing and extraordinary? How to experience the culture, the places, the food, the people, the environment, right? How would I fail to do that? Because we always want to go from here to there, and we want to assume that it's all going to be smooth sailing. I'm here, I'm going there, it's just going to be point A to point B. Well, we all know life isn't like that, and our brain knows that life is not like that. Right? It's up there thinking, even if you're trying to sunshine yourself into it'll be wonderful. It's your brain is going, you've got to be kidding me. What are you thinking? And so when I do this, I take the time, carve out some time, ask myself, how would I fail to have this extraordinary experience? How would I fail to achieve my big, hairy, audacious goal? And I've got a whole list of, categories of things that you can think of, resources and constraints and skills you don't have. If it's something that you're going after, I want to go snowboarding in Lake Tahoe. Well, I don't have the skill, so there's categories that I've given, on this spreadsheet that I use to figure this out for myself. There's categories, there's weather constraints, and there's health issues, and there's planning problems, and there's what things can go wrong, and what's the horrible things that can go wrong. And so when I do this, I do not hold back at all. And I love my friends because they didn't hold back at all either. And so what I always say about this process is be prepared at this stage of the game to absolutely be terrified. Tonight, I am sitting here because I just did this today, and I had friends help me today with this whole thinking out process. And you sit here after you do this first stage of this, absolutely in abject terror, because your brain gives you, you ask a question, what things could go wrong? Your reticular activating system is happy to oblige you and tell you all the things that can go wrong for you obtaining this. And not just the minor things like I've got lost luggage, like happened with us in Jamaica, right? When we all went to Jamaica for a mission trip. Nope, not that kind. We got that too. I got that on there. But we also have, let's say cartel. Let's just do that. Rape, pillage, cartel, ditches, that kind of thing. Your brain goes there. But what I do in this process is I really, really, really think everything through. And so here's the first list, all the stuff that you see here that I'm like, that's bad. We've got kidnapped, beheaded, mutilated, sold into slavery, and hooked on cocaine. I'm not talking about lost luggage things. Your brain will spin out the worst case scenario because we're survival machines, right?
That's right.
If we look at these things, as a species, evolutionarily wise, if you don't plan for the worst, you're going to be eaten by something, so we're wired to actually look for these things and be terrified by them, so that our radar is always up for the worst case scenarios. You have a more likely chance of survival, right? If you're worried about these things and your radar is up for them, you have a higher probability of survival.
Wow.
correct?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I was reading some of the stuff you have here,
Yes.
and, I'm just thinking about this process though, because these are the boogeymen now.
Yes, these are the boogeymen,
Okay, so
the big
so
bad boogeymen.
yeah,
And,
and
and and nobody's wrong in these. These are the things that are floating around in our heads that we do not want to say out loud.
yeah, that's right. I mean,
Because they're not the only ones that came up with some of these.
yeah,
I came up with them too.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it's just amazing though that you venture into this and you do it so explicitly. You actually comb through it and part the the curtain open so you can see further into your own thinking those
Yeah.
things that are lurking that would normally be left unsaid,
Yes.
unaddressed, even worse.
Yes. And what
And
happens when you don't address them, Michael?
oh,
Nine
then
point nine chances out of 10.
you're going to have some kind of problem that's real close to what you didn't even think about or didn't want to
Or you
think.
won't even start.
Uh,
Either one of those two things, or you won't even start because your mind knows that you know, it's DEF CON, what, 10? I don't know what the DEF CON levels are, but 10 for sure. Orange, something.
yeah,
Your brain's screaming at you, stop, back up, go home, crawl under a couch. And
yeah.
that's, and honestly, this is to me, the hardest part of the process that I go through
Mhm.
is this point in it where I am just really honest to goodness, abject terror.
Mm.
What have I done? What have I committed to? And what have I committed to publicly? What have I bought plane tickets for? What have I bought an event ticket for? How much money have I spent? How much am I in for? How fast can I back out of this? Those are all legitimate thoughts that go through your brain when you go through this process.
Mm-mm-mm. Like, is the due date passed for me to cancel?
How fast can I run back to safety, right?
Yeah.
And so this is the initial list. This is, so I say, I've got down here from friends. This is all the things that people added to the list that I hadn't already had up above. And
Right.
so up here is, this is my full list. And this isn't where we end. This is where we start. The next thing I do is I actually take and categorize these items into like concerns, like issues, similar issues. And so
Right.
you find when you do that, so, okay, mental, emotional, hold on a second, let me see. Oh, okay, up here, I'll skip the fun category, how I wouldn't have fun, but details, I just loosely grouped them under things that made sense to me. Details, I take the wrong clothes for the kind of weather. I can't find my Airbnb when I arrive. I can't get from one Airbnb to the other when I change Airbnbs. I
Mm.
forget to take my passport and I'm stuck at the airport in Atlanta, 2 hours from home. I don't
Mm.
get the necessary medical test before it's time to fly. The timing's off on them. I don't get my results back in time. The airline loses my luggage. See, now the least of my concerns, right? After the other list, it's like, great, lose my luggage. I don't care. I'll go buy something new. I don't have the local money. My ATM card doesn't work there. My credit card doesn't work there. The credit card company shuts off my thing because I forgot to tell them that I was going to Cartagena, Colombia, right? Just all of these things. The trip costs more than I expect. All these kind of things. The next category I did was mental and emotional management of stress and fear. And it's funny because I must have written it 4 times. I did. I wrote it 4 times, 4 versions of the exact same thing.
Mm.
And what this does when you put them in categories, you recognize this. Okay, a big area of concern is my emotional and mental management of being alone in a foreign country, not being able to speak the language, right? That I wrote it pretty much 4 versions of the same thing. I'm emotionally and mentally locked up and can't leave the Airbnb and can't get myself to the conference. Can't get myself to do anything in Cartagena. I can't get myself to leave the apartment. I have nothing to eat for 2 weeks and I starve to death and die in Cartagena from starvation. and I get so locked up I can't get back to the airport or to the event. All the same thing.
And really, and what I see in that, and just to really parse it out for our audience, this is a thing that you have about emotionally and mentally getting locked up and being
Yes.
unable to perform and unable to venture out.
Yes.
And so this is a real thing that
Yes.
could potentially happen,
Yeah. Oh, totally.
right?
Not potentially, Michael.
Yeah.
It's happened to me in the past.
Okay.
And it happens to me fairly regularly, even in places I'm familiar with. So the
Okay.
reason it got written 4 different ways is
Yeah.
because I have massive trepidation about this particular area of it. And if I don't do something about it, I won't have the event that I'm intending to have.
Wow. But to face your fears, and that's the way you started this. This looks to me like you are truly facing
Yes.
this issue, this concern.
Yes.
Not only have you not you've had the experience, in a strange place, but you've also had the experience in a place that you're very familiar with.
Yes.
Plus, now you're going to a place where you're venturing into something that's so unknown. So smart. So
Yes.
smart to actually pull the boogeyman from under the bed, really, right?
And
Just-
look at it.
And look at him in the
Yeah.
eye, in the face.
And say,
Let him
this is
saw it.
you. You're legitimate.
Yeah.
This is legitimate. There's some things that'll be on your fear list that aren't really legitimate that you go, yeah, okay. If my luggage gets lost, you always carry an extra set, always carry
Yeah.
an extra set in your backpack,
Right.
and you'll be fine for a couple of days and the airline delivers it. And it's really not, it's not your top 10 fears.
Right.
Right. And so this starts to get you in touch with the ones, that I wrote it 4 times. I didn't even realize I wrote it 4 times until I put it into the category.
Wow.
So it's like, oh, this is a big one. So this is one we have to deal with. And make no mistake, we will deal with these. We won't just stop here and go, yeah, there you are. I'm terrified. Now suck it up, Buttercup. Just do it. This is not totally, a Nike commercial. It's not just do it. It's do this intelligently, right?
Yes.
And so next, so other categories I had physical well-being. This one was a huge one for not only me, but for everyone else. And it's curious too, mine were not the same ones as everybody else because I ventured out into the world, into certain places that maybe some other people haven't ventured out. Some things weren't even on my radar because I've already faced them. They weren't even here. Mine were different ones than other people's were. So mine were I get in an accident while I'm there. That's legitimate everywhere you go.
Right.
You walk across the street and you're not looking and you get hit by a car.
Right.
That's legitimate in my own hometown. And so, I have medical issues there. They start having riots for some unknown reason, like they're having Peru and Brazil, and it gets stuck. I have a heart attack. I got a history of heart issues in my family. I have massive tooth issues again. It's the one thing that took me out of one of my other adventures because I missed one thing, one thing. Dental issues. I don't feel safe when I get there. I get lost while I'm wandering around the city. I get mugged and my wallet and my passport are stolen and I can't take care of anything. So I was sorting things out. So like I said, this is, what friends sent, and I'd started sorting things out into those categories. But again, here's a huge number of them that are of the physical well-being category. Alcoholic drinks, laced with things. Do I have my vaccinations? Do I get sick? Being solo puts me at risk. Border and outlying areas are more dangerous. This came from friends, their concerns, which are totally legitimate. I'm unable to defend myself if somebody tries to do something. The inability to get extracted in a case of an emergency, lack of medical insurance. My insurance here doesn't work there. These horrible ones. I have one friend who I think he was having lots of fun with me. He really put the big uns there. Kidnapped, beheaded, mutilated, sold into slavery, and getting hooked on cocaine, though getting sold into slavery was not only one person that came up with that. And so I'm not criticizing anyone. These are the things that are running around in the back of all of our heads. It's crossed my mind. Everybody's seen that movie with Liam Neeson in it. Well, I didn't. I wouldn't watch it because I already knew I'd be terrified. But, most everybody's watched the movie. And it's like, this is something that plays in your mind. If you don't face this, it's going to be the thing that stops you out. And I don't care what it is. If you want to become a public speaker like you do, if you don't face the actual fear of, gosh, there was the time, and some of these are embarrassing. I don't have any on this list, but I've had them on other lists. Having to go potty in the woods to hike the Tahoe Rim Trail. That's embarrassing. You want to speak on stage and you drank too much water before you got on stage, and now you have to use the restroom and you can't. And what do you do? And what if you have an accident, God forbid? These are things that actually play in our heads, but we're so embarrassed to say them out loud. But honestly, when I see that everybody is coming up with very similar things, we're human, right? We have
Oh
the
yeah.
same sorts of fears. And really, well, I don't know, the falling in love with a 3'7" pygmy, I don't know what the risk is there. That could be bad. But most all of these are really about physical safety.
Yes.
Most all of these are about the physical well-being predominantly. And so now we've got our hands wrapped around. Even as I'm doing this in real time with y'all,
Wow.
of sorting this this out mentally. I don't do the homework necessary to find fun things to do around Cartagena's under the fun category. So I go there and I'm late to sign up to go do anything with maybe an Airbnb experience, right? All of them, everybody signed up, and I can't go and do it because I didn't do the homework necessary to go have fun. All of these things are pieces of this puzzle of you going after something that's important to you.
So I just want to, highlight something that I'm observing too. This is a pretty darn long list.
This isn't as long as one other one I had.
Well, but I mean,
Yeah.
this kind of work is daunting, could be daunting,
Yes.
but it's an investment, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
Yes,
an
it is.
investment. And we talked just last week, we talked about loving the struggle, right? And
Yes.
this is part of this is actually making the struggle, bringing it right in front of your face
Yes.
so that
Right.
you can actually see what the tiny pieces of that thing that's lurking in your mind, that's holding you back, that's preventing you from moving forward, either way you look at it. And now you have the opportunity to analyze, to
Yes.
evaluate, to ask yourselves questions, to identify potential solutions, or just to go back and maybe word it differently so that it's really more accurate to your actual fear.
Yes.
All of these opportunities exist now
Yes.
because you're doing this process.
Yes.
This is amazing.
And I want to say that we will avoid the things that we really, really want to go after that have deep meaning to us for years. Years. Do you want to know how much time I spend on this, Michael? And granted, this is for a trip. This isn't of the I would like to change careers kind of level of change and fears and all that kind of stuff. But even that, the time spent was, I don't even know if I've spent 2 hours on this. And so far, and then it's probably total, once I get through the whole process of it, which I will complete. I've got till Monday when I fly out of here. I've got to leave at 2 a.m. on Monday. By that point, I will have finished this process and done the homework from it. And so a couple of hours, a few hours of your time, or a whole weekend or 2 weekends devoted, depending on the scale of that thing that you want to go after. How is that a waste of time when you'll waste years not going after that thing?
And so what, that's a big question though. That's a really big question, because do you really want that thing? Because when it comes down to it, if you really want it and you still don't do it, or don't even go after it, then what a travesty.
Yes.
What is the word that we've used before, where we actually don't show up in the universe the way that we should be showing up, because we deny ourselves and our community the things that we could become as a result of doing those things for which we are fearful now.
Absolutely. And I'd like to think that none of us have ever been taught how to approach something like this systematically. I did this out of necessity. I was just constantly lingering, holding back in abject fear of everything, and I say constantly, I have, social anxiety issues and other issues of the anxiety variety quite a bit. The first trip I did was literally driving my truck across the country, and I was just terrified. And now I think, oh my gosh, I've ridden a motorcycle by myself across the country in late winter.
Yeah.
not even, you can't even call it spring when you're in Colorado. I
Right.
mean, there's snow on the ground, there's
That's right.
black ice. And
Mhm.
did that in a very short time after I got my riding permit, 800 miles. And I was doing that, but I did this process, which allowed me to do it, not just boldly, just go do it, just get out there and knuckle yourself to the ground and just do it and don't have any fear. Our brains are trying to tell us something. So
Mhm.
this is the way that we can intelligently take those fears and do something proactive with them to be
Wow.
able to move forward.
That is so amazing. So now that you've done this is the categorized list of horrors, if you will.
Yes. Or we see there's not as many categories as there is individual items. They fall under a
Yeah,
few categories. It's not
yeah.
as horrible as it sounds.
So
Yes.
what's the reason for putting them in categories like this? What how do
It's
you?
it's the first step in organizing your thoughts. You will end up with a plan of action at the end of this that is built off of all the things that could go wrong, instead of hoping and praying that it just all goes smooth sailing,
Mm.
through. And then I find myself in a Airbnb in Cartagena looking out the window longingly and not going anywhere, which is high probability. I kid you not. I know it looks like I go and do, but that is a high probability if I actually don't go through this process for myself.
Mm.
So and the other point is to find things like that. The mental and emotional management of my stress and fear is really not four different things like it felt like when they were individual, but it's a very big single fear, that's gripping me, that I wrote it 4 times, 4 different ways. That it's not as many things. The physical well-being is manifestations of the same general fears
Mhm.
over and over again. And so that's the point of it. And it's intelligently corralling all of this so that you can work with it to actually end up with something workable, so you can go forward safely, intelligently, reasonably, rationally, and go do the thing that you want to do. So that's why we do this next step. And this part of it doesn't take very long. It's 20 minutes of sorting things out into categories that just make sense for you. It's
Right.
not something complicated or super specific. It's like, like I said, one of my categories is fun. When I've done this before, I haven't had a fun category. How will I miss having fun? These are the ways I'll miss having fun.
Yeah.
And details are just logistics of travel for the
Right.
most part. And so that's why I put it under there. It's just travel logistics. And so what we do, the next thing that we do with this whole list, and you can't quite see it here, is the solutions to horrors. And I haven't done that on here, but what you do is, what I typically do is copy this list over, and then I start systematically working through one thing after another and create my list. I call it my menu of options, so
Mm.
that I start creatively figuring out how to deal with each of these fears to make it either a moot point, that it's not even a problem at all. So like with losing my luggage, if I am not in the position to do this on this trip, but on other trips I have, is I do everything carry on. They can't lose my luggage if I don't give it to them, right? So that's making it a moot point.
Yeah.
In this case, I can't make it a moot point because I'm taking too much stuff for various reasons that come after this. And so how do I minimize the problem? So, okay, so they lose my luggage. Typically they lose it for a day or 2 or 3 or whatever. Well, how do I manage then? And one of the solutions that I would come up with, and I wouldn't come up with a bunch of different ones for this particular one, is, okay, put the pair of panties, an extra bra, some sock, an extra outfit, and your cosmetics, the essentials, into your backpack, and make sure that they're of the size that I can carry onto the airplane. They go in my backpack, and I'm good. In a few granola bars,
Mhm.
and I'm good. An empty water bottle so I can fill it up at the airport, and I've got everything I need to sustain me for 1, 2, 3 days, if in the case that they lose my luggage and I don't get it right away.
Yeah.
Backup plan to them losing it permanently. Okay, now I got to go shopping. I got to get some clothes and stuff, right?
That's
And
right.
so this is how you can think of this. It starts to mitigate the fear underlying all of these things, Michael, is fear. Fear, whatever you want to call it, whatever level, anxiety to sheer abject terror is fear. It's all fear. Fear of public speaking is fear of humiliation. You know, fear of embarrassment, fear of not being able to hack it, fear of falling down, fear of getting hurt, fear of losing something. These are all just fears. And so, and I don't mean to minimize them by saying just, but they're all something that we can manage for. And when you get them all out of your mind and really look at them, you can actually do something with them. When they're free floating around in your mind, they're going to win. 9 times out of 10, they're going to win, right? Why would anybody put themselves in the position of getting, themselves abducted to be in a pygmy marriage? It's who would put themselves in that position, right? And so, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, you have this. I mean, anything can happen, right? But
Yes.
here's the thing. I can see that where you don't have this bigger purpose for living.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that some of these things where you're doing this for a particular growth step for your life,
Yes.
to be able
Yes.
to rise to increase your potential to a higher level, and to look at the available opportunities that you're currently not seeing because you don't have the empowerment yet in place to do that. And now you are preparing yourself for a different kind of life altogether.
Yes.
Right. And so if you don't go through the struggle, if you don't deal with the fear, then, as you've said so eloquently already, you just get stuck and you just don't go anywhere. You just don't do anything, and you don't accomplish the things. And now you have a whole list of things that you wished you had done. And now you're about ready to kick the bucket, so to speak.
Yeah.
And you haven't done any.
And you're still wishing.
You're still wishing.
You're still wishing. And I say this all the time, your comfort zone is it never is static. It's either shrinking up around you or you're pushing it out in all the various ways. I always think of it as like one of those shrink wrap bubbles that they put around, flower baskets and stuff like that. It's like, the hair dryer's on it and it's shrinking up around you. It's like your options are getting smaller and smaller when that fear keeps winning and you're not pushing it back out steadily. And I'm not saying blow it out. I'm not saying, punch a hole in it. I'm saying continuously nudging it out, because it will keep going out further and further as you expand your comfort zone. And like I said, there's things that didn't go on the list for me that were on previous lists, like when I rode down into Mexico, because those were pertinent to me at the time. I went and did them, and now they're like, yeah, whatever. I don't even think about them. I didn't even think to put them on the list for illustrative purposes, because now I expanded my comfort out in that way that it's not even something that I think about now on a subsequent trip.
Because you've already have the mechanism to prepare and to deal with the possibilities in those areas. Yes. And I think that's just phenomenal. So this process then, to some extent, gets easier the more often we do it.
Oh, absolutely, Michael. There's stuff that has gone on that there were items that went on the first list that get carried through and get addressed for a different iteration of that. I one of the, because I travel a lot, so this is obviously a frequent one, but, I'm having different kinds of experiences, whether it's hiking in the Sierra Nevadas or riding a motorcycle across the country or into Mexico, a foreign country, or now traveling solo into South America. There, some things stay constant. You just revise them for the current adventure. You're getting more skilled at this thing that you want to do. I'm more skilled at being a, quote unquote world traveler, even though I haven't traveled the whole world yet, is because, okay, I bring the wrong clothes, that was on the list. I bring the wrong clothes for the weather. I've either got a parka and it's 90, or I've got a bikini and it's 40. It's like my experience is going to be diminished, and now I'm going to have to scramble around trying to get the appropriate clothes. So some of these things now, can call them experience.
Yes.
because we grappled with them the first time. The first time I grappled with them, I didn't even have a clue what I should be doing.
Mhm.
I had no idea. Well, now I've got a sense of it because I've done it so many times. Now I have confidence because I've become more competent at this. And
Ooh.
that's and
Yeah.
that's in any area in life, whether it's your career, family, friends, relationships, sports, you name it. The more you attend to it and make distinctions for it, the more competent you become, which grows your confidence.
Wow. Yeah, the competence confidence loop.
Yes.
It's forever. And so,
Mhm.
and that's one of the reasons I like what you're doing here, but I like the terminology that you most often refer to a lot of this, where you're taking these tiny itty bitty baby steps. And this is kind of breaking up a huge,
Yeah.
what should I call it? A collage, a holographic fear, body of fear that you have. You can't put your finger on it, but you know it's there, right?
Right. And
Yeah.
it stops you.
And it stops you. It has that power over you.
Mhm.
And now you're actually just breaking that whole thing apart into its tiny pieces so you can
Yes.
see them in discrete fashion.
Yes.
Wow.
And just like the kid with the boogeyman under the bed, you drag it out into the light of day and you go, you? You know, and I'm not saying some of these are not, scary boogeymen. I'm not saying that.
Right.
Some of these are really terrifying, but for the most part, logistics handles most of this. For
Right.
the most part, pre-planning and knowing what you'll do. So a huge portion of these things here is don't be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Do not find yourself out at night. That's a generally
Mhm.
commonly accepted standard of practice
Mhm. Mhm.
when you travel. I don't do it in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Am I found downtown just wandering around by myself? It's not a thing I do.
Uh,
And so just, so many of these things are preempted by just having rules for yourself, plans in place, all those kind of things. And so what I want to say that I do next after this uh, is to systematically, one by one, take these items and what is it that I can do about this? I take the wrong kind of clothes for the wrong kind of weather. Well, that's a quickie internet search.
yeah.
Easy peasy. What's the average temperatures at this time of year in Cartagena,
Mhm.
right? Can't find my Airbnb when I arrive. I get the map. I call the lady. I have her phone number in my phone. I have her phone number in WhatsApp because that's what they use in Central and South America, not just your phone. I make touch base with her and let her know what's going on. And can she meet me there? Can she send me pictures of my access into the Airbnb so that I know step by step I'm supposed to walk through this door? That's the picture of the door. This is, and then I take the screenshots of them and they're on my phone and my pictures so I can walk myself through. There's huge amounts of things you can do to mitigate almost all of these things on here. Being in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong person, that's everywhere. And so that's one of my mental, it's like I've got to come to terms for myself with there are, bad things happen everywhere, kind of thing. And I have to find my own level of risk with that kind of thing. But once you've gone through and handled so many of these other ones, you can emotionally you all the other things kind of cleared off the decks. You can go, okay, now what about this one? This
Mhm.
one's really out of my control. What was some of the things on here? You know, a heart attack,
Mhm.
it's, how do you put people in place that know where you're at and look out for you, or that you text, or how do you dial 911? What's 911 in Cartagena? Get to know people so you have, my experience. So my experience now is that loose contacts are very helpful when you're in distress, when people are in distress. So how do you make loose contacts? The Airbnb person, the person who's running the seminar, get to know some motorcycle people and communicate with them. Loose contacts will help you if you're in a bad way. Okay, I can do that. So that takes care of the heart attack. It probably takes care of the tooth issues. Even better would be preemptively get my teeth checked before I leave. But if you wind up with something, okay, loose contacts can be helpful. If I'm really distressed about it and concerned about it, I can look up a few dentists. I can look up a few English speaking dentists, and I can
Mhm.
call them and make sure what their hours are and make sure
Mhm.
that I've got a contact, and it's in my phone. It's
Yeah,
listed as Cartagena dentist, so I can pull it up under duress when I'm stressed out.
right.
There's things that you can do about all of these things. I get lost while I'm wandering around Old City Cartagena. Creative, and these are just off the top of my head. I do this with each and every item. I turn on my Gaia app and it always monitors me. I use it to go out into the woods. I use it to go out snowshoeing. You use it to go out in the woods motorcycling. Turn on my Gaia app and I go live my life, and I can backtrack myself to where I started, or either some way on your phone to do a, my place thing, so that you
Mhm.
have a pin in it. Oh my gosh, but what if my phone dies? I
Mhm.
carry along with me a spare battery, because nothing's worse than if your phone dies. What if my phone gets stolen? Okay, all right. I send 3 different people my address and my contact information, and I make sure I have their phone number in my pocket so I can call them. And how do I call from Cartagena? I better figure that out. You can go as deep down in that rabbit hole until you're actually comfortable with each and every one of these
Oh,
as to what your plans are. The cool thing about this is you will learn so much from doing it the one time that applies to all the subsequent times that you do. And the confidence level on the first time you do something like this shoots you up probably about 50%,
mm.
because you've learned so much in the process of going through this. Well, now I know it's not 911 in Central America or South America. It's, 511. And you have to have an in the country phone. Well, I know how to get a SIM chip now. Oh, there's an e-chip. I can get an e-chip on my phone. You can start to explore all of these things. And now you're actually engaging with your dream in such a visceral, intimate way. And the confidence that comes from that, I can't even begin to say how extraordinary it is. That even though I have a list of horrors, I'm now moving off of that point because we're looking at this part of the game. But I'm at that sort of terrified, holy cow, what have I got myself into stage. But as I start to go through this list and start to work through these items down to a level where it's like, okay, that's absurd. I don't need to carry, somebody's phone number in my pocket. I know it in my head, but honestly, on some things I've done that. When I go out snowboarding by myself, my my name's in there, my contact information, who to get in touch with if I'm found somewhere.
Mhm.
If I bonk my head, I'm snowboarding and I bonk my head on a tree,
That's right.
somebody's going to get called because it's in my pocket. So there's ways to look after yourself while you're doing these kind of things in a very methodical, systematic way. And when I'm done with this, I will probably post this somewhere so everybody that was so beautiful to share with me can see the planning, the thought that goes into doing this. It's not done yet, but it will be done in the next couple of
Mm.
days. And then all the tasks will methodically be taken care of in the order in which I face them. All the research stuff will get done here. Other things will get done while I'm down there. And so, how to get around, what's the safety of taxis or Ubers down there, or is it not Uber, is it another company? I will know all those things before I ever step foot on an airplane.
Yeah, this is great. This is really great. And I really I like the approach. Uh, I like the approach because you go deep down into your feelings and your thoughts, and even some of your beliefs are surfacing here,
Yes.
uh, right? And you use a value system to help you get out.
Hmm.
You're
Yes.
right. I mean, you do all of this work because of the values you have, and,
Yes.
and because of the vision that's created based on those values. And I mean, even the seed coming out of the ground has to struggle to push through.
Absolutely.
See,
Absolutely.
so the growth here is is more powerful. You're making the growth step more powerful and appealing by
Ah, yes.
removing the list of horrors, and the categorization here, and you're allowing yourself the opportunity to just go over this, right? I mean,
Yes.
it's so awesome. Wow.
Yes. And then I systematically start working what it becomes in the next step, 2 steps is sorting then this list of solutions that you have for yourself out into the order in which they come at you, so to speak. So first things first, all the researching will get done first, because I can do that in this location way ahead of time. Whereas other things, I probably won't research until I'm there. What's a restaurant close to my Airbnb? Those kind of things won't happen until later. So you then it's not also the overwhelm of, oh my gosh, I've got all these things to do. It's just taking the next one and the next one and the next one in the order in which they come at you. And so you're also doing that, I'll do my research sitting here for a couple hours, what kind of activities do I want to do? Where are they located at? How can I make sure that they're legitimate people that I'm going with to go see the phosphorescent sea and not go by myself and, not be alone at night in a bathing suit on a beach, somebody I know. I'm poking at one particular friend who is an angel who looks over me all the time. And so, so that you can execute these things in the order in which they come at you and not be overwhelmed even by that. So this is very methodical to get yourself to take action to get the end result that you're looking for.
Phenomenal. Wow.
And then itty bitty baby step your way into it. Even then, steps can be broken down, even if something is too overwhelming for you. And I won't go into that tonight. There's plenty of times where we'll talk about itty bitty baby steps and how to create them. But really, there's ways to move under the radar of your own resistance, to get yourself to take action in a way that's actually fairly comfortable for you. And so those are the last couple of steps is, in the execution of this methodically, systematically, in a way that makes you comfortable. And so now it'll be the fun of sharing what unfolds out of all of this.
Yes.
That's what's coming next. We'll see how this all unfolds, and I'll be sharing the individual pieces as they come up for me as to how I grappled with each of those things, just leaving my Airbnb to go over to the beach across the street. Those are the things, as I'm on the ground and grappling with them, I'll be sharing on Facebook posts. And so anybody that wants to listen in, I would love to have you, or go to Sunshine's Epic Adventures on Facebook, my page there, and check it out, because that's what's coming here in a week.
Yeah. And I know, Renee, if anybody really is interested in facing their fears, that just really have something they really want to do, that you would be happy to share this process.
Absolutely.
I know that people need to invest time and sometimes money to get this high level of information, but got to tell you, it's worth the investment. It's worth the time. It's worth the focus. It's worth the energy. It's worth the reflection. It's worth digging deep into the inner thoughts that you have, bringing them out. And even the good thoughts, you should bring them out in the open too. They help.
Absolutely.
Early, right? But
yes.
These we tend to push back down, and sometimes we don't even talk about them, and they hold us back. So that is so incredible. Thank you so much for being so transparent with this. Just being so open and vulnerable here in your analysis of the potential for what could be disastrous, right? Some of these items could be disastrous, but some of them are just things that you can prepare for. You can put contingencies in place so that you just really don't have to really worry about them. If they happen, you have something prepared.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So anything we can do to help, we want you to go out and live your best life. It adds to the net good in the world when people are out living their best life. And that's what we'd like to help with.
All right, fantastic. So we'll see, we'll get an update then next week. It's an opportunity and fill in the gaps.
You know it. Everybody have a great week. Go out and make it incredible.